Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to another Google Calendar API in Python tutorial. My name is Jay. In this video, we'll learn how to add, update, and delete Google Calendar events using Google Calendar API. Alright, so this is probably the most important topic when you are working with Google Calendar API. Now let's take a look at the Google Calendar API documentation. And to add an event, I'll be using the insert method. Alright, so let's take a look. When we use the event insert method, we need to provide the calendar ID. And below are some of the optional parameters. So some of the things we can set, such as max attendees. Do you want to send notifications? Do you want to send out attendees updates? This one I don't use very much, but I think you can manage. If your event is a recurring event, then you can, I think, can supply a version number to that event. And this one is supports attachment. So you can attach different documents to your event item. And I'll show you how to use majority of the parameters and the fields, and as well as also show you how to attach different files to your event item. Alright, so here's the two scopes that we can use when we want to run the insert method. And below is the request body object fields. And when we provide the request body object, we need to provide the start time and the end time. And this can be either date time or date, and which I'll show you an example later. And below are the optionals fields. So here's the attendees field, attachment. Let's talk about attachments real quick. Currently, the Google Calendar API does not support file attachment. And if we want to attach a file or files, we need to first of all upload the files to your Google Drive or my Google Drive. Then we need to provide the Google Drive file link to this attachments.file URL property. You can also specify the color ID. And again, I don't use the conference data field very much, so I can give you a description on what the conference data field does. And here's the event description. And as I mentioned before, when we supply the start date and the end date, we need to specify if we want to use a date. If we are going to use a date, then it's going to take this date format, which is year and month and day. But if we want to specify a date plus a time, then we'll need to use this RFC 3329 formatting. Oh, and if we are going to use date-time format, then we need to supply a time zone. And some of the fields you can probably go to on your own. And here's the ID field, location, and recurrence, and so on. Throughout this tutorial, I'll pick the fields that I think are useful. And here's the status field. We can have three options. We can set to confirm, tentative, or cancelled. And summary. Oh, summary is a pretty important one. Summary is the event title, and transparency, visibility. Alright, so that's everything I want to cover in terms of the documentation. And below are examples for different languages. If we go to Python, so here they already give you a very basic example. Alright, so let's go into our code editor. And here's my my code template. And here's my calendar ID. Actually, let me go to my calendar real quick. I'll be using this Chicago events calendar for demonstration. So here's my code to generate the Google Calendar API service object. And again, this is my Chicago event calendar ID. And we're going to start by creating one single event. So this one is going to be create an event. And first I want to grab the color profile list. I'll name the color profiles object colors. I'll insert the service object .colors .get .execute. And me run just the select code. I'm going to basically run all the lines individually so you can actually understand line by line what each statement is doing. Right, so here I'm going to print the colors object, and that'll give us a list of color profiles for either calendar or event. And the dictionary key is going to be the color profile ID. Let's start with creating the request body object first. I'm going to name this object event request body. And we need to provide the start date and the end date. Let's say I want to set up an event for having lunch with my family. And let's say I want to set the lunch date as on August 1st at 12 p.m. So let's go to the API real quick. Alright, so let's look at this example. When we provide the start and the end dates, we can either specify the value as date time or dates. And date is much easier than just one day event. But to set an event with dates and time, then we need to provide date time property. And the date time formatting is going to be the RFC datetime format. Now from the Google module, inside this module, I wrote a function called convert to RFC datetime. And this function will basically simplify the RFC datetime formatting step. And to use this function, I'll insert the function first. Alright, so this function has 5 parameters. The first parameter is the year value, month value, day value, and followed by the hour value and the minute value. And also we need the second value. If you need to add the second value, then you can always go back to the Google module and modify the function according to your need. Alright, so let's say I want to create an event to set up a family lunch plan with my parents. I'll insert the year, and it's going to be 2019. And let's do August 1st. And for the hour, I want to set the lunch at 12:30 p.m. Inside the starts property, we need to specify the time zone. And since I moved to Taipei from San Francisco, so for the time zone, I'm going to set the time zone to Asia, Taipei. And this one more thing we need to do. The time is going to be based on GMT time. So I'm going to create a variable called hour adjustment. And because Taipei time zone is -8 from GMT, so I'm going to set the value to -8. And this will basically fix the hour display when we create the event. So within the convert to RFC datetime function, here I'm going to I'm going to add the hour adjustment. And for the end time, I'm going to just copy these 2 lines and paste. I want to set my end time to, let's do 2 p.m. And it's going to be based on military time. So here I'm going to insert 14. And by default, if I want to create an event, and this is all you need to provide in the request body. But since when we create an event, there are actually much more information we need to provide. So I'm going to continue. When we create an event, we need to give our event a title. So for the summary property, and it's going to be the event title, I'm going to name this as family lunch. And we can also provide a description. For the description, I'm going to type having lunch with the parents. And let me go back to my calendar. Right. So when we create a new event, so here we have different color profile we can use. Alright, so I'm going to just randomly pick a color profile ID. And it's going to be color ID, and I'm going to use color profile number 5. And for the status, now let's go back to the documentation. Right, so if we search for status, actually it's right here. So for the status property, we can provide 3 different values. We can provide as confirm, tentative, or cancel. I'm going to use confirm. And for the transparency, so transparency meaning that, here let's go to the description, meaning that you want to block the time on your calendar. I'm going to use opaque as my transparency value, and this is also the default value. The next one is visibility, and visibility is you want to make your calendar event visible. We can set the visibility as public, private, or default, or even confidential. And I'm going to set that to private. So here I'm going to insert private. And the other one I think is pretty important is location. And here we can use either a coordinate value or a city name or address. So here let me just insert a city, Chicago, Illinois. Alright, so if you want to insert attachment to your event, so here I'm going to insert the attachments property, and it's going to be a list. Now let me go to my Google Drive, and let's say I want to attach my, I have this Word template, and we need to first of all grab the file ID. Let's see, so here there should be an option called open in new window. Because by default in the URL, it doesn't show the file ID, so you need to use this open in new window function to open the file in a separate window or separate tab. And here's the file ID. And to insert a file, there's going to be one dictionary object per file. So if you need to insert multiple files, then you will need to insert multiple dictionary objects. In the dictionary object, you just need to provide the file URL. Actually, I need to provide the full URL, sorry. So it's going to be the entire URL. And sync title is optional. So if you want to use a different name for your document, you can also provide a different title. And let's say I want to name my file invitation letter template in Word doc. And that will be the only file that I want to attach to my event. Alright, now the next one I think is pretty important is attendees. And it's going to be a list. And again, it's going to be one dictionary per person. Now let's go back to the documentation and let me search for attendee. This one should be, okay, should be this one. Alright, so here's the attendees object data type, and it's a list. And these are attendees records fields. So we can provide attendees email, display name, comment, optional. So that's indicating whether or not the attendee can have the option to not to attend to an event. And I'm going to just make this pretty easy. I want to insert the attendee display name. For the display name, I'm going to just type JJ, comment, and I enjoy coding. In my email, actually this one I'm going to just skip, but you can provide the attendee email. And we can set whether or not if the attendees if the attendees presence is optional. And it's going to be Boolean, so I'm going to set that to false. It's not optional. And it's the attendee organizer. And I'm going to say yes. So the value is going to be 2. And we can also set the response status. And response status has multiple values, I think, right here. So we can use one of these 4 response status value. So I'm going to use accept. The remaining fields, such as creator, and this one's going to be a dictionary, organizer, and this one's going to be a dictionary as well. And these 2 are pretty useful in my opinion. And the property fields, here, let me search for creator. It's missing. Okay, so it's not on the documentation. Let me take a look. Creator. Okay, so apparently it's not on the documentation. Alright, so let me remove creator. And I'll include organizer. So organizer. Okay, so it's missing organizer as well, which is interesting. Here, let me go into the advanced resource object or response body. And here in the response, in the resource representation, it has organizer and here's the creator. So I think on the documentation it's missing some of the information. Alright, so I'll just put it. So I'll grab these 2 JSON representation, and I'll just put it in the script. And I'll comment this out as it's kind of like a note that the value that I can provide. And I don't want to include the self property. Alright, so for the response object, this is all the information I want to provide to my event item. And to create an event, and there are additional parameters we can specify. And I'll go to each parameter individually. Usually when I create an event, if I want to set the parameter value, I will create variables to supply the value, since it is easier to track the variables, as well as if you need to manipulate the value, and it's much easier that way. Alright, so the first parameter value is the max attendees. And we can set the maximum attendees to, let's see, I think there's no maximum number. Okay, so I'm going to set the max attendee to 5. And do we want to send notification? I'm going to say yes. Do we want to send an update? I'm going to say no. Actually, I'm going to set this to none. Let me take a look. So for the send updates parameter, we can use these 3 values: O, external only, or none. And the last one is supports attachment. So if you are going to attach a file to your event or to your event item, you must set this value to 2. Alright, now let's create the event. So here I'm going to store the output as, I'm going to name the output as response. And I'll insert my service object, .events, .insert. Oops, I pressed the wrong key. Alright, and here I need to insert the execute method. And to create an event, we need to provide the calendar ID. Max attendees. send notification, send update, supports attachments, and the last one is body. And the body object is going to be events request body. And here I'll print the response object after we create the event. Now I'm going to select the lines I want to execute. So it's going to be from colors, so line 17, all the way to line 78. Let me try it. And here I have a typo. Right, so this should be so if I read the error message, here I got an unexpected keyword argument, and this should be plural send notifications, and that means this also should be plural. Alright, let me try again. So I can just run line 69 to line 78, and because everything else executed successfully. Alright, so if I run this code block, and here, should be execute. Alright, let me try again. Okay, so this time it's missing attendee email. Okay, so I guess when we provide the attendees property, we need to provide the email. So email is a required field. Right, for the email, I'm going to just insert my u2 at learn-data-analysis.org. Right, so let me run the entire code again. Okay, so this time the code executed successfully. I know that because in the print statement, it print all the event information such as attachments, attendees, color profile, and everything else. If I go to my calendar, and the event is on August 1st, and here's my event created by my Python script. Right, let's take a look at the event real quick. Let me see if I can go into the event detail. So if we click on an event, and that takes us to all the detail of this particular event. Alright, so on the top, this the this is the date and time of the event, and followed by the time zone. And remember, from the Python script, let me scroll to the top. I have this hour adjustment variable to make sure that when I create an event, the display time and the dates will match to my current time zone. If I don't include this hour adjustment variable to adjust the time, then when I create the event is going to show my event time as 8:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. And here's the attachment. Right, so let's take a look at the description. So description is right here, and here's the attachment from the Google Drive file. And this one is visibility, transparency, and the color profile. And on the right we have the attendees, see, and this is the guest permission. Oh, and this one more thing I forgot to show you. So on the top we have event recurrence. That one is a little bit tricky. So let me show you how to create event recurrence. Let me go back to the documentation. Recurrence. Alright, so it's right here. The recurrence property is a list. And when we specify an event recurrence, we need to use this RFC 5545 format. For now, don't think too much on the format. I'm going to just give you kind of like a template to use to set the recurrence value. So here on above our adjustment, I'm going to create a list. I'm going to name this list recurrence. Inside this list, I'm going to insert this string value rule. So based on based on a list of values, and I'm basically creating a new rule. And we need to insert a colon and followed by the frequency. And we can set that as yearly, daily, monthly, or quarterly. I'll set the event as monthly. And here, let me remove this closing single quotation. And I think all the letters has to be uppercase. And we need to insert a semicolon and followed by how many times do you want the event to occur. And I'm going to set the count value to 2. Now in the event request body object, and let's insert the recurrence field at the end. So the field name should be recurrence. We're going to insert the recurrence. Let me take a look. So we're going to insert the recurrence list object. Let me go back to my calendar and delete the event that I just created. Where's here? Delete. Okay. Now I'm going to highlight everything I want to execute. So from line 21 all the way to line 83. Alright, so if I go back to my calendar and refresh my page, and here's my family lunch event. And this time, when I look at the recurrence field, so here's my event recurrence count 1-2 times, and it's happening on a monthly basis. And there are other frequencies you can set. You can set as weekly on a Saturday, monthly on the first Saturday or any other day, or yearly on a certain date. We learned how to create an event. Now let's learn how to update an event. Update and delete an event is going to be much quicker. Alright, so this one's going to be update an event. And here, let me do this. I'm going to store the event ID to a variable called event ID. And around line 85, now if I print event ID, and that will give me the event ID value. Let's say my parents change their mind. They don't want to have lunch anymore. They want to have dinner. So here, let me grab my my functions, my start dates and end date functions. All right, so let me grab these two code blocks, and I'll just put it right here. And I'm going to create two variables. So the first variable is going to be start date time. So I don't even need those two. Right. So the first variable is going to be start date time, and the second variable is going to be end date time. And I want to change the time from 12:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And since we need to insert a value or hour as military time, so I need to use 18 for 6 p.m. And let's do 6 to 8. And to change the event title and description, so we can use the response object, and we just need to change the dictionary values. So for the start date time, so we need to change the dates time value, and we'll do the same for end date time value. And I want to change the event title. So it's gonna be family dinner. And description. So I'll just type having family dinner. And I'll only update this for properties. In here to update event, so I'll insert my service object .events .update. Inside the update method, we need to provide the calendar ID and the event ID. And to update the event information, so we need to resupply the body object. So it's going to be event request body that execute. Now if I run line 93 to 102, and if I go back to my calendar, here, let me go back and refresh my page. And I see let's see. That's weird. Here, let me take a look. Hold on. Oh, I know why. This should be response, not event request body, because we're updating an existing event. Alright, so that was my mistake. Let me try again. So if I just run this highlighted code, and now if I go back to my calendar, and here my event is updated to from family lunch to family dinner. And if I go back to make sure that the date and time is updated as well, now my time got updated to 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And the last thing we're going to learn is how to delete an event. To delete an event, we just need to use the delete method. So service.events.delete, and we need to supply the calendar ID and the event ID. And if I run line 108, and that'll delete my family dinner event, and I see my event is now deleted. This is everything I want to cover in this video, and hopefully you guys found the video useful. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys on the next video.